If you want a dumb answer, just ask the internet. But if you want a smart answer, you're in the right place. Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is to make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. Today's bottom line is this: document your trips. You'll thank yourself in the future. Todd, how did we find out about this podcast information, or how did we find out today? What's the how to plan your perfect motorcycle trip? How did we get here?
I was looking through a bunch of the motorcycle groups on Facebook, and I belong to several of them.
Sure.
And together we moderate one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw someone post just a simple question.
Yeah.
And of course, along with a simple question comes 50 stupid answers, ridiculous answers. But then there were some good ones. And I just thought, let's tackle this one. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So what they say?
It was a great question. So this was a person that has been riding motorcycles for quite a while, but they're only doing 100 or 200-mile trips, like day rides only. And they've been on these long distance forums and some of the motorcycle map forums and things. And they've gotten interested in maybe doing a longer trip, 500 miles or multi-days. And so they really wanted to ask, they said, I'm just riding a deuce right now. And what are some things that I should think about adding to my motorcycle? And of course, you got all the stupid answers, just ride, or I rode across the country on my basic bike and
on a 1952, whatever, dude.
With one change of clothes.
Yeah.
That's not what the person was asking. They're like, what can I do to make it more comfortable?
And that's one thing. It's just like, sometimes I get it. We all want to be the funniest guy on the internet, right? Well, half the time when you do that, the context is incorrect. Answer the question for the person. I mean, I have enough anxiety asking the question the first time.
Yeah.
Let alone to turn the flames on and tell him, I don't know. Those things drive me crazy.
It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But along with all the stupid answers and the ignorant things, there were a lot of great answers. And then we have a lot of experience in riding multi-day trips and over 1,000 miles in a day. I haven't done that, but so
basically, I'd say what you're saying is the question was basically, how can I take my current bike and minor improvements or modifications that I could do and make it so I could take a few day motorcycle trip
and be comfortable
and be somewhat comfortable, right?
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, right?
Yeah. And any other tips that, people wanted to share. So
yeah,
we're going to start small, maybe take a single overnight trip.
So we came up with 10, right?
Yeah.
We're going to come up with 10 tips that we feel like for you taking maybe your first or one that we should do.
Very good. Yes, 10. And there could be 100, but
of course,
we're going to start with 10 to get them started. So
this is a section we call the Toolkit.
A single
we share
overnight
motorcycle
trip,
gear, review
not
tips,
too far
and
from
checks you can
your
make.
Familiar area. I know I've done that with my wife. We've gone maybe 300-400 miles, stayed overnight somewhere, did a little sightseeing, and then a couple 100 miles back.
Yep.
That's an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
If you have any issues, at least you're close enough. Yeah.
I always say too, if you're really nervous about it, if you just are having that anxiety, just maybe the weekend before, take the car, take the same trip. Because generally speaking, you could do 500 miles and take the car if you're really that nervous, because then you visualize everything too.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. That's probably a good idea. And really just plan your route in detail to begin with.
I'd say so the 10th one is start small. 9th tip is...
9th tip would be just plan your route. Be very detailed. Using like Google Maps.
Yep.
Any of the routing ones that are made for motorcycles.
Yep.
There's a Reaver and there's a whole bunch of them.
That'd be something for us in the future to talk about. But you can take a Google map and you can plan out your exact turns and trips. You can get it all down to the exact mileage per day. And then that's an easy way so you can see. I would say when you're planning those routes to avoid the 4 lanes in most times, once in a while jump on there to bypass a city if that's the case. But and you don't have to, like, a lot of times we're mounting our phones on the handlebars and or a GPS, but you can go, the poor man version of that is really just to write down every next stop on a card and have it right there.
Yeah. A tank bag is an easy place to stick
and even just a magnetic map if you have to. Like those are $20, but that's just go to this stop to the next stop. So even if you have a mechanism to put your route in so you can see it, great. Use your phone, use your whatever, but you can do it. You don't have to buy a GPS for the very first ride. you need to figure out if this is what you want to do, right?
Yeah, good
Yeah,
point. Before you spend a bunch of
totally.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So that was number 9.
Yep.
Plan the route in detail. Number 8, don't go crazy. Don't buy too much stuff.
Right.
I think there's an episode we're going to do coming up about all the stuff we've purchased and
Yeah.
to get rid of it. But just bring some of the essentials. You do want to have some tools with.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking here like really just getting the bike ready for travel, right?
Yes.
More or less.
Yep.
Number 8.
Yeah.
So like, even if it's just zip ties, some duct tape, a multi-tool,
Yeah.
those 3 things will get you mostly
It
as far
really
as
will.
tools go.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, check your tires because we've seen that a few too many times. I mean,
Unfortunately,
Mhm.
it's happened to us on several trips where we've lost a tire.
but if you check your fluids, you check your tires, and you bring those few simple things, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to start packing.
So number 7,
yeah, pack smart.
yeah,
And if your bike is basic, it doesn't have luggage on it and trunks
Mhm.
space, you can strap a backpack down to the passenger seat. If you don't have a passenger seat, you can just wear the backpack.
you can't. I would not do that.
I would not do it myself, but
So that would be I would say that if you're going to take a bike on a multi-day trip, you're going to have a way to attach the bag to the bike somehow. Usually, most bikes that you'll take will have a back seat. And I know on our first trip that we took, that was a 3-day, 1,000-mile trip, I literally used a gym bag when I just got one of those small
cargo net.
the small cargo net looking one
Yeah.
that just have 6 bungee cord straps on it.
Mhm.
It was fine. Now,
Yeah.
if we'd have got into some heavy rain, everything would have definitely got wet. But just to get by, it was good enough. And I think even just a couple of the straps, you basically just attaching it to your
Yeah.
seat.
And you just made me think too, if you do just have a duffel bag, a gym bag,
Yeah.
you could still put your stuff inside plastic
You
bags,
could.
Ziploc bags in the
Yeah,
duffel.
yeah. Or garbage bag.
A garbage bag, so that if it does get
That's
rained
true.
on,
I mean,
keep it dry.
yeah, for to know that. But if we look at number 6, I think this is the one that is probably the tough part, but just the question and answer is how can I be comfortable? If this is your first day, this is your first time riding a multi-day trip and you're going to ride over 200 miles a day, it's going to be a little painful. Probably. That's where I would start.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the biggest pain is generally speaking the seat.
Mhm.
If it's not a tour style bike, most of those seats are fairly uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're really just made for shorter rides.
They are.
They're not necessarily made for 3, 4, 500-mile days.
Yeah. So you can buy a new seat if this is a committed thing. And if not, I guess what I recommend is just going 60, 70, 100 miles and pulling up and stop, get off the bike, stretch, relax, rest yourself. And that's the way I think those 2 things are the things I'd say.
Yeah.
You can definitely get comfortable, like making sure you have bar risers in the right spot. Adjusting the motorcycle if you can
Mhm.
is the biggest thing to comfort, as far as I know. But
Yeah, and they make some air pads.
yeah,
You can
you
buy a
guys have
generic.
like an Air Hawk, which is the name brand, and then
Yeah,
there's others.
and I've got the generic version of the Air Hawk.
Right.
It's same shape and everything. You can put air in it or water in it, and it helps. I've got a nice seat on my motorcycle. It was made for long distance. However, it's 22 years old and it's
Right.
broken down a little bit. So I've put the air
Yep.
seat on there, and it helps.
We just rode a big trip, many thousands of miles, and the thing that was my favorite part was the beaded seat
Mhm.
because I feel like I can move around, like even just
Mhm.
my. We've talked before about highway pegs and getting your legs stretched, but for me, I was just moving laterally, forward,
Yeah.
back, laterally on the seat beads, and that did help too. It depends, and I think this is where the Airhawk style. See, the hotter it gets, the more moisture shows up in places you don't want it to. And to me, that's when I start feeling the pains. But yeah. So that was was that
That
number
was
6?
6. That was 6.
So 5. What's
Number
5?
5 would really just be know your limits. Don't push yourself too far. In the beginning, of course, this person said they've done some 1 and 200-mile
Yeah.
rides, so maybe they know how they feel at the end of that. But I would say don't push it. You don't want to get yourself overly tired or start cramping.
Yeah.
That can be dangerous. So
What ties into that to me is really keeping hydrated in those things. When we were riding recently, it was 95.
yeah,
It's really hot. And I think just making sure I was doing some electrolytes in the waters when we
Mhm.
stopped, and I was surprised how well that helped too. So
really.
yeah.
Were you doing like a Gatorade or like a liquid?
I would
IV?
do a liquid. I was just doing water, and then I put a electrolyte packet in it,
Yeah.
and then just usually drank that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but what about number 4? This kind of ties in.
Yeah, I would plan fuel stops and rest breaks,
Mhm.
especially if you're going to be out in remote areas. If you
Right.
know you're going to be out in that country remote, there might not be a fuel stop for 30 or 40 miles. And
Yeah.
so you can get yourself in trouble quickly on a motorcycle. So I would plan those ahead.
And so that ties in really well with number 2, right? So 4 and 2 go together. Just making sure when you're planning the route, plan for the fuel stops so
Mhm.
that you don't get too far. You're better off stopping more
Oh, yeah.
than less.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not a race, and especially on this first few that you take.
Yeah. And that anxiety of running out of fuel. And
Yeah.
I've run out of fuel.
Yep. Me too.
Uh, it's, it sucks.
And yeah, I mean,
You walk for a while, then finally someone picks you up. You can get up to a gas station, buy a can, and then figure out
back
how to
you
get
go.
back. Yeah. Uh,
What's number 3?
be ready to adjust and adapt. Be flexible because the weather will change, road conditions, depending on the time of the year. But I would say don't make your route so rigid that you can't make changes to it. Make sure there's always a like kind of plan B, maybe.
Yeah, and if you're just not comfortable, if it happens to be a weather thing, just stop. It's okay. You don't have to just push on just because.
Yeah.
Riding in the rain is not fun.
It's not.
And if you get wet, it's worse, right? Once you're wet, it's not that much fun. It's hard to
Yes.
see. It's
In
hard to control the vehicle sometimes based on how bad it is. Just pull over.
Exactly. Depending on the time of the year, it might be light until 9 p.m. or might only be light until 7 p.m.
Yeah.
I would say maybe plan your first couple of rides, maybe to end by 4 or 5. That way, if you do hit a heavy rainstorm, you can wait for a few
Good point.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait 3, 4 hours till some of it passes. Or
Yeah. And if you're
lightens
planning
up.
on using motels, you can usually get a check-in at, say, 3 o'clock. So that way, if you get there that soon, you can check in,
That's fine.
undo, and then go for a shorter ride and add on if you want to.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
think number 2 is one of my favorite ones, and I think it's one that people don't maybe use enough. And, kind of how this whole story started is how this can actually be a good thing. And that's just connect with local writers. Throw it out there in some of these forums. Does anyone know this area? They'll at least help you find roads. But sometimes it's like, hey, I'll be there in that Saturday. I'll ride with you. And we've done that before in the past. On the ADV Rider is a very big forum, off Facebook forum. And they have regions, and people are so willing to ride with you and they want to go ride, and they're always looking for someone to ride with. Man, I would definitely check that out. If you can find any local riders, those people, and then you're just following sometimes, let them lead, or they'll let you know where the cool little place with the best chicken salad sandwiches and
I was just going to say,
Tuscaloosa.
they'll show you where the best places to eat are. They'll have you pull off or show you some scenic overlooks or
Right.
just some neat waterfalls or
Yeah.
cool things.
This
to see.
house where this person did
Historic,
whatever. Yeah, it's
historic
cool.
places. So yeah, those local riders with that local knowledge, fantastic.
Let's recap before we go to number 1. So we had this is the 10 tips to plan a perfect motorcycle trip. Number 10 was start small. Number 9, plan your route in detail. Number 8, prepare the bike. And then pack smart. The one thing that we didn't say on pack smart is take half of it out.
I know.
And then
I don't do it myself. And so I forget to tell people. Yeah.
this last trip that I took was a long trip. It was about 11 days. And I did a really good job of packing smart. And man, it actually felt good to not have
sure.
so much stuff. So yeah, was that 7, pack smart?
No, that was 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's not 4. Yeah, it was 4. Pack smart. Number 5, gear up for comfort. So just be in comfort. 4,
6, know your limits.
we're going backwards, Jack. It's 10, start small. 9, plan your route.
I see what you're
8.
Oh,
You lived in David Letterman land for how many years did you do top 10 lists?
I
for
forgot.
crying out loud, man.
You're right.
All right, 7 is pack smart. 6, gear up for comfort. 5, know your limits. 4, plan for those fuel straps and rest breaks. 3, stay flexible. 2, connect with local riders. And our number 1 that you already heard, but we already snuck into it. document the journey in many ways. If you feel compelled to write it down in a book, I tried to do that on the last one. I didn't do a great job. One of the things on our next trip I'd really like to do is write down at the end of the day just some thoughts about it, because you just forget so much. We have cameras on our phones. We have all this stuff. And if you can document the journey, how many times have we looked back? We've looked back a lot on the timeline because that has shown us where we were.
The Google timeline. Right?
But we really try to at least take some more pictures as we go. Yeah. On this next trip that we're taking, I'm going to really try to stop right before some of the roads that we're going to be on and just stop and record a quick something like, here we are we're at the Great River Road in Iowa, starting here, and just to try to be a little bit better about documenting. But all of the videos and the things, I've even looked back at videos that I forgot that I recorded and just pictures that pop up. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Some of the really fun pictures and stuff.
And the people we've met.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we've taken pictures with all these people we met, but we really need to do that.
Yeah, right.
The selfies, right?
Make sure we have email addresses and phone numbers before we leave.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's people that I've wanted to talk to again.
I did do that when we went on this last trip. I've got an email of a guy we met at a rest stop in Iowa, and then 2 guys that we met on a ferry. One of them was a state police officer and was riding a motorcycle, and the other one rode his 150cc scooter from the West Coast to the Dragon.
Wow.
So somebody to reconnect with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are our top 10, but please document the journey because that's what it's all about, right?
It really is.
I think the 2 things that probably, I would say that the multi-tool is really that one. If you have to have one tool, grab that multi-tool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then rain gear, I know we've talked about this a lot, but people have a lot of questions about it. And you can pick up a pretty reasonably priced rain gear. Like, I think you're running, is it Nelson Rigs right now?
Nelson Rig, yep.
I think the 2 or 3 things maybe that we've decided is, 1, see if you can get the really compact, if you can see how tight, because you're using rain gear hopefully 10 to 15% of the time, but you need to have it on the bike 100% of the time.
Right.
So finding something that gets small, and I would say the only thing that stinks in is if you end up riding a day long in rain, you're going to get wet, but probably going to get wet anyway. So that smaller gear probably is slightly more conducive to you getting wet.
Yeah.
But you really like, and I had it on the last one with the hood.
Yeah,
that's really
it's got a little roll-up hood inside the neck roll.
Yeah.
What's nice is it's super thin, but it connects to the back of the coat. So if it's raining, take your helmet off, pull that hood up over, and then put your helmet on. That way, when you stop, water doesn't run down the back of your helmet into your jacket, into your collar, and then down your back and into your underwear. Yeah, I really like having hood.
I want to look at that Harley Davidson rain gear because I think that stuff is like, I don't know what space age material they're using with that, but that thing gets tiny.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because the Harley Davidson bags are so big.
Yeah. Maybe that's
I feel like my side bags, if I put my rain gear there, it's like a third of the rain gear. But
yeah. And some of the cheaper rain gear doesn't compact real small.
It looks like that rubbery. It's usually
it's
a little not so good. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can be bulky.
Is yours pretty small?
This one's very small. In fact, it's got its own pocket in the back of the jacket. Right. It all wraps up.
That's awesome, actually. Yeah.
I like it real well.
If you like the podcast today, please subscribe or sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts that you can find on our website. It's our way of keeping you in the loop, and we promise no spam.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads, the stories ride forever. Take care.